But before we start, I do kind of like the proper, kind of like saying hello. So, hello, Cassandra from Cape Town.
Hi, Nils.
Original from Germany. And what I want to welcome you to, obviously, a shot with Nils virtually. We're meeting over a very long distance, but I'm grateful for that. On the same timeline, basically. So that's pretty cool. So I hope you can see my little glass. It's got a little deer in it and some manifest. So cheers to you.
Prost.
So prost.
Lekker.
Lekker. Yeah, South African would say lekker. It's kind of like almost similar.
Exactly.
Yeah, Cassandra. So usually you do trainings for aspiring and already very much advanced bartenders in your bartending schools, European bartending school in Cape Town, and you've been shut down for the last.
So our lockdown here in South Africa has been for going on almost 4 weeks now.
Oh.
We unfortunately had a course running at the time when the COVID-19 announcement was made, and it was called a national disaster. And our students that do courses with us, they do programs that are 4 weeks long. And the students at that time were in their second week, just finishing their second week. And it was such a bummer because we had to make a very precise decision right then and there. It was either you're going to stay in South Africa and you're going to sit through this with us, or you're going to have to try and get home as quickly as possible, because majority of our students are also internationally based. So funny enough, actually the first 2 students that left were 2 German students. They immediately booked their flight. There was no reasoning. They were just like, we have to go back to our families. We have to go back. And it was probably a 3-day turnaround when we had to ship off 20 students to go back home. It was heartbreaking because they were literally so close into finishing their course. And we saw great potential for them, but we had to make economical decision at that time. So it did suck, yeah, for sure, definitely. We were on a roll. We were just about to finish with our curriculum. The guys were about to start doing their exams, but just for the sake of safety and reassuring that everyone can go back home because of, the airports locking down and not allowing international travelers to travel anymore, I think we made a good decision. But yeah, we're waiting to see if the schools are able to operate. Our lockdown is meant to finish next week, Thursday.
All right. Yeah. So that would be beginning of May.
Yeah. But I honestly don't think that is going to happen. As we have seen from lots of different other countries, the extension is always going to go, or has been extended per se. And I don't think it's a good idea to release the masses in one go. Imagine thousands of people streaming back onto the streets. Within a week's time, we'll probably have an influx of infections again, and then we're going to sit in another lockdown, which could last potentially even longer. So at the moment, what our government is trying to do is that they're trying to release different sectors at different times. So
you can go shopping, but limited, or is it kind of schools starting, but not everyone? Here, it's the older guys getting back to school, but the younger are still staying home. So obviously that's put a lot of pressure to lots of moms and dads because they have to stay home obviously when the kids are home. Mm-hmm. But I guess it makes sense, but it's not making it easier, right?
Of course not.
And bars, they closed at in South Africa at the same time, roughly.
I'm telling you, Nils, it is a shit show in the most simplest terms, because in our period now of lockdown, bars are closed, restaurants are closed, liquor stores are closed. You're not allowed to buy alcohol. You're not allowed to buy cigarettes. They are only opening the shops to essentials. So even something as makeup.
Cigarettes.
you're not allowed to buy cigarettes. And I'm telling you, people
how much
are
of a warning
losing.
did they give you?
Excuse me?
How much of a warning did they give you? I mean, that really is affecting.
There was a 3-day warning when the official announcement was made that an official lockdown was going to go on this date, and it was just people were scrambling all over the place, getting whatever they can, and also at the same time it was during the middle of the month, so a lot of people didn't receive their salaries at that time. They couldn't buy all of the essentials, so I think people, they are surviving, but it has become a massive wake-up call. There are unfortunately a few mishappenings that have also happened. A few liquor stores, they have been broken into. People are trying to buy cigarettes illegally, but it's to some extent it kind of reminds me of the same basis when we were when it was prohibition. All the things that you were not allowed to get, people are making plans to get it, and it's kind of fun to see the creative ways and how they do it. It's not ideal, but people are getting what they need. But we'll hope just as soon as the lockdown ends that it will go back to normality, and hopefully people have also learned that certain things are not essentials. For instance, cigarettes. I mean, it's not an essential, but
they are essential for me.
Yeah, I can like I said, like my the guys that I'm staying with, they smoke, and I have my occasional puff every now and then, especially when I'm well lubricated. But it's a struggle, They go to the nearest corner shop and they try and negotiate, and they're telling me I'm not allowed to tell their ways. But it's an exciting kind of experience.
Way into getting a pack of cigarettes, right? That's kind of sounds like a tough struggle. So far we are pretty much relaxed here in Germany still. I mean, it's always depending on where you are, and so it's kind of always we're able to go into buying cigarettes or something like that, because obviously filling stations when you go filling up your car, you still can buy some cigarettes and like that.
Yeah.
So it was pretty much relaxed, and I guess it's hard to predict, because you're trying to later on, when you look back, you're trying to prove a negative, when it wasn't that bad, everyone goes it wasn't that bad. I mean, the reason that we locked down might be the reason that it wasn't that bad. So it's kind of it's always difficult to figure out when you're looking back, they shouldn't have done this or that. It's always kind of a shit conversation. But I guess it's definitely infecting or affecting all our lives very very harshly.
100%. I think people are starting to prioritize also what's more important to them when it comes to buying different types of purchases. So, I mean, we are very privileged to firstly have a roof over our heads, to have, just been able to have money in our accounts to be able to buy all the essentials that we need, and to even go out and buy groceries on a weekly basis, compared to some of the other parts of South Africa who don't have that privilege. And I think, for us here, it's such a delicate topic to talk about when we're talking about the people who survive in the townships versus, for instance, myself, who has got a home, and I am able to pay rent. So I understand exactly why they're breaking into liquor stores, because that's kind of part of their essential. Having a beer every single day is part of their essential. It's part of how they deal with life and how they get through life every single day. It might not be the same for me. I mean, if I don't have an avocado a day, I might cry myself to sleep. But it's a different perspective, and it's really an eye opener for us to be able to appreciate what we have. In that aspect, I think lockdown has really taught us that we have to appreciate the smaller things in life. Like you're saying, that parents are getting to spend more time with their families. And don't get me wrong, I've heard of a couple of parents saying damn, can someone just please take my child away because I need some time by myself?
Yeah, I totally get it. But I mean, it's always like, obviously, it's the saying, what I feel like, what's hopefully happening, like, for people is, as you say, like, you can prioritize, you can see, and obviously, I mean, for kids, it's always like, when I ask kids right now, like, you're still allowed to, like, take a walk with your dog, like,
yeah.
And like, some of the, families, they take the kids out with the dogs, and then they can, like, walk around there. And I ask these kids, like, are you happy that there's no school, right? And they go, like, straight away, no, I want to see my friends.
Yeah.
Like, it's not like, I want to go back to school, like, because I want to learn something. I mean, there's always, like, this kind of, like, second thing that happens, but still like, they're going, like, no, I definitely want to go back because I want to see my friends. And I totally can relate to that. Like, right now, for me, this period here, it feels so kind of like, it's like, it's like being in a parallel universe, right?
Yeah.
You're looking inside something from the outside, but it's real, but it's still unreal, right? Yeah. It's like the time you're spending, like, when you're in, like, connecting, to another flight on an airport, and then you're on another flight. It's always like, changing time zones. So it's self-centered.
Real.
There's time passing, yet is not passing, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And right now it feels like, as you said, you made a decision, like, closing down the school. So this is kind of finished, but it's kind of, like, not clear what's going to happen then, right? Like, and I feel that is really putting a strain on many people, that you don't, that you cannot predict, like, what is the next step in future, right? And I feel like that is definitely something, like, which is obviously putting a strain on, like, some relation and, like, and how you feel about these things. But otherwise, as you said, like, that you can focus, or, like, take time to learn another language, or, like, focus on things, like, how essential are they really? Like, like, how important is that to my well-being? And I guess that is something, people who have, like, not this kind of centered inner self, they're going to be, like, probably more affected in being, like, staying home than actually people who have this kind of, like, self-awareness, or, like, being relaxed with that. So I totally get it.
Look, I think this time is also giving, I mean, it's giving everyone a major scare, because as a business owner, you're thinking of, like, shit, I'm not making any income. What can we do? So during this period of lockdown or quarantine, there are so many different innovative things that you can think of, and different types of ways that you can almost rebrand yourself. So when this quarantine ends and we're going back to service, firstly, service is not going to be the same as what we expected it to be, or what we thought. Like, it would be so amazing if I could walk into your bar, give you a nice big high five, and we can have a little shot together, and we can have some cool banter. That's unfortunately not going to be the reality when we go back, because now people are going to be very scared to potentially go out. So trying to find a different, cool, innovative way in how you can do your service, this is the time when you need to start thinking, and this is the time that you really need to address that to your staff as well. So yes, definitely, apart, like, from learning a new language, it's important for you to take time to rest as a bar owner or restaurant owner, or as a bartender or waiter, and then kind of reset the way that you're thinking, and go back and be like, how can we be better? How can we add more value to our service? Because the amount of bars that are going to close, probably about 50%, because there's just no money to run them. There is a lot of people are not making income over this time during quarantine to go out and spend money, because people are going to be so much more stingy in what they spend on. So if you go back and take this time now and be like, okay, cool, what cool products can we do, or what cool experiences can we create to lure back the people to come and have this experience with us? Let's get thinking. Let's start doing something.
Quick question.
Yes.
I just wondered, like, here people are kind of trying to bridge the kind of losing out on money, like, bridging the gap without guests, in doing kind of like, that you have a takeaway service for drinks, like in little bottles that you can take out of the bar, waiting at the door, giving you a heads up, sending you an email or giving you a call, and then you just hand out your product so that they have like a takeaway for cocktails. Can you do something like that in South Africa as well?
At the moment, you will not be able to do it because firstly, booze is completely restricted. So you can't buy it. You're not allowed to sell it. You're allowed to consume it if you have booze at home, of course.
I would be lucky. I would be your best.
Yeah, I have to say I'm quite jealous of your selection. I wish I could jump through the screen and
let me show you, it's kind of make you more jealous. So
no, stop it.
There you go. That's it. So, and it's just like all the bottles are 5 deep, right? So there's loads of booze. I'm not running out of booze next day. It's just kind of
Okay, so we know where the party's happening after quarantine. Everyone's going to come to your bar and we're going to have a big fat job.
Just come over. It's not a problem. I'm very happy.
Yeah, so what I think is, so in order for you to be able to serve booze, you have to have the correct liquor licensing to be able to do that here in South Africa. So unfortunately, our government is not well equipped to be able to give you a very quick turnaround. Sometimes to be able to get a liquor license for your restaurant can take up to 6 weeks to a couple of months, because it's not a priority for them. And unfortunately, right now we're looking at this great opportunity to be able to bring booze to people's house. I think, being able to bring booze to people's house is fantastic because, like I said earlier, people are afraid of going out, so bringing the delivery to them is great. But I also think it opens up that whole, going back to our original roots where we can teach people how to make drinks. Everyone nowadays has got the ability to buy a cocktail shaker. Everyone knows how to make a simple syrup. I mean, maybe I'm just a bit oblivious, but I think
it's really just kind of
Google it.
What you're saying, you can Google it, but for me, this kind of obviously being in this business for more than a quarter of a century, right? It's like what I always realize. It's like what we take for granted. Mm-hmm. And even if they are more educated, as a consumers, as a bartenders, there's never been so many knowledge around, and so easily accessible, as you say, you can Google it, just you can look it up. There's so many courses, so many trainings, master classes and everything. What I still realize, it's the moment you take a shaker and you can start doing it, there's a massive insecurity. How does it turn out? Right?
Yeah.
And it's kind of being at home and kind of there are only a few people actually having this kind of right attitude to kind of I give it a try.
Yeah.
Right? So
it takes courage.
And then absolutely, and then just taking it this kind of everyone making fun of a very accomplished actor doing on Instagram I'm doing a Negroni, yes, and he's substituting gin for vodka, whatever, and everyone just taking a piss out of this guy because they are the bartenders, and I feel hey, he's serving a drink for his lady, and she's happy. I mean, come on, seriously, he's done everything right, and for the biggest amount of obviously people on Instagram, it's gonna be this guy did something amazing, right? And even when it wasn't kind of perfect drink, and you never change in a Negroni, as that's true, but it's he did it, and he did it with, I would say, with flair and kind of very relaxed attitude. And in the end, it's hey, come on, it's home, right? Yes. So if you can't improvise at home, where can you, right?
Exactly, and this is something that we actually did with our hubertuscircle team here in South Africa. Charles Grayling, he gave us a fantastic opportunity. He was okay, guys, during this lockdown period, let's keep it fun for ourselves, post some cool videos of how you can utilize Jägermeister at home and just make it fun and just make it like super interactive. And, if you have a giggle at yourself, so be it, because we're trying to create a positive outlook on how we consume and, just keeping it, funny, because it's about that positivity. And Rudy has created a couple of really great, fantastic content.
Yeah, he did it with beer, something like that, just like kind of more or less just like plucking down on sofa again. And, but I mean, it's, obviously, that's something like now he can do just like it, just like just because
easy.
He does it is in itself already raising the bar of something ordinary to something exceptional, right? I mean, hands down, he can do it.
Yeah, I mean, we can make really pretty cocktails, but just I'm asking myself how many people, for instance, do stock Jägermeister during this time. We are very much, especially in South Africa, very much used to having Jägermeister as the fun go-to shot. Let's get a little bit rowdy on a Friday night, and what? Absolutely. We're all going to end up having probably a couple of shots and having the most amazing time. And what we were trying to do is take Jägermeister and have the ingredients at home and whatever we have and just make a good cocktail with it. I mean, the one video that I submitted was everyone is going crazy about making banana bread at home. And I was like, fuck it, I'm going to make Jägermeister banana bread. And it tasted amazing. I substituted the sugar for Jägermeister, and I promise you, the Jägermeister flavors were still very, very predominant afterwards, and it was super yummy. And we just made a really fun video just to kind of be like, you know what? It doesn't matter what you're doing. It doesn't need to be perfect. Just make it fun for yourself, and just have that the creativity and have the courage to go and explore. Because if you can do that when you're cooking, you can do that in applying that same mindset to when you're making drinks.
Absolutely. For me, sorry to interrupt you, but what Kelly just said is it's always this kind of one key learning I always try to bring to everyone is creativity is not happening when you have everything around.
Yeah.
Right? Creativity is happening when you have this kind of limitation. When you when you're forced in the kind of instant to react to something, then it's something where you create a real new thing. And it was the biggest kind of school which taught me this was I stopped working with a menu in my bar in 2006. So it's ancient times.
Mm-hmm.
So, this kind of at that time, it was really an insult to all these people because they were used to having a menu going I got a menu that big long great and now it's just what do you want? What's it supposed to taste like? And they go I don't like. I'm going I didn't ask you what you don't like. I asked you what you want.
Yes.
So it was really and from that, it kind of evolved. The people got used to it. And there was one moment, it was really testing me big time. It was people go I go for whatever, I'm Manhattan and blah, 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 blah. Okay, it's a standard, so you can order anytime. The moment you order something with confidence, you always will get it, right? So, and there's one lady, and she goes I want something with melon and coffee, with or without alcohol. And I go do you like cream? And she goes I don't care. I go fuck you, I hate you. So kind of obviously I couldn't say this, right? So I'm kind of I'm turning around and going 4 people, 3 drinks, which are easy, and one kind of impossible task, right? And I'm turning around, walking just behind my bar, going all right, good, doing the drinks. And then I go it was really the biggest realization I ever had. I was all right, she could picture this taste. So who am I not to get something straight here? Come on.
Yeah.
So, okay, she wanted something with coffee and melon. I got to figure something out with coffee and melon. So I came up with a drink with some anisette, a very strong espresso, which kind of had already this kind of anisey notes in it as well, and kind of like this kind of licoricey, underlying notes. So it was really playing well together. And then I had a cantaloupe melon and blended it with just just a hint of Jäger as well. So anisette, some Jägermeister. I had this, and it was just so fucking gorgeous. But if you then ask me, being in this kind of comfortable surrounding, just ask me, what would you do with? I would have never come up with anything, right?
No.
So it was this kind of being under pressure, having this kind of moment where you're forced to, I got to come up with something, right?
Exactly.
So, and that was so good. It was really, there was testing, but it showed me creativity has nothing to do with having everything, right? It's more something to do with taking this kind of leap of faith, where you can just jump into it and you go that could work out, right?
100%. And the amazing thing is that nowadays everyone has got access to the internet. So if you read up on a classic cocktail, let's say for instance you're reading up on a daiquiri, but A, you don't have rum, B, you don't have lime juice, C, you don't have sugar syrup. What stops you from still making a daiquiri-inspired drink? And that's actually what I'm having today. I am having a Jägermeister daiquiri, which is Jägermeister, lemon juice, and a little bit of maple syrup, because this is what I have at home. I don't have limes. I do have rum. I'm still a bartender, but I choose to make it with something different. And the taste is amazing. And for people who don't have that same mindset as what bartenders have, because it's part of our job to be able to understand what to substitute for different flavors for sours or for sweetness, they can easily go onto the Flavor Thesaurus or to any type of flavor website where they can find alternatives to use. And this is where the experiment starts.
But it's kind of you still need to have this kind of connection between
of course,
and experience, and that's where actually there's always going to be this kind of obviously a professional working with taste and flavors, and there's always going to be there's this kind of knowledgeable guy having all this kind of information, but knowledge does not equal understanding. There's always going to be this kind of gap between having it's even when you can read notes, it does not mean that you can play the piano or behind, right? But you still can play, read notes, and I heard the song, right? And then you're playing it, and you go kind of similar, right? But then comes another guy and goes and basically it's so easy to play a nice piano. It's only pressing the right key for the right amount of time with the right pressure. Doesn't sound so difficult, right? But then you're looking at all these and you go I'm gonna fucking headache and it's not working. Right? So I guess it's the same, probably we are used to taste, so it sounds for us kind of easy, and we feel comfortable with this kind of challenge. But I totally get it, when people feel overwhelmed, right? So and I guess it's when you said the people do have to kind of think of how they serve and kind of as well what they serve after the lockdown. Here in Germany, I feel right now everyone is kind of applauding hey, you were essential, you were a nurse or a doctor and you're working, you're essential, blah blah blah. The same in the US, and I feel that the people are gonna be not ungrateful because they are kind of nasty, right? Just because it's human nature, right? They're kind of they're gonna forget about these things, and they're just gonna be happy to go back to a place where they have someone to talk to, and they're gonna give all the love they're right now pronouncing to all these essential services. And no one is talking about the bar industry. For me, the bar industry is the same a flower shop. That's essential for me, right? But no one says a flower shop is essential right now. But for me, that's beauty. It's essential, right? And the same is bars. There's communication, right? And the people are going to go back and going to be grateful to have this, because they hopefully realize that social network is strongest, not like, in this kind of, like, virtual reality, like in Facebook, Instagram, like, whatever we do, that's good and that's helpful right now. But the best social network is like, as you said, I met you and I remember you, right?
Yes.
There's this kind of moments we kind of like, cherish, or we kind of can create when we're meeting together. It's always like where creativity, where we have this kind of cultural ferment, where something is happening.
It's an emotion. We have this emotional connection to one another. And to be honest, this is something I don't feel very often, because I don't have the opportunity to work in a bar all the time. I do my occasional guest shifts wherever I can. And because for me personally, it just makes me feel relevant, because if I'm teaching bartending, I don't feel that if I'm not working in a bar, or if I'm not doing at least a couple of guest shifts, it makes me less credible to teach bartending. But now that you're saying it, like, they're giving me this perspective. And again, this is part of the amazing part of having these virtual meetings with each other, is that we see different perspectives from one another. I can definitely feel the pain inside of just wanting to be with young, hungry, thirsty people who want to know how to make a fucking Cuba Libre, or like they just want to know how to make drinks. They want to know how to flair. They want to know, the difference between a bourbon or a Tennessee whiskey, whatever the case is. It really, I can't wait to have that flame, ignited again. And I know that a lot of bartenders, especially here in South Africa, they're dying to get back to their bars, because the bars, and just like yourself, I mean, you have the amazing ability to go back to your space and be like, oh, hi, baby. Whereas we just
I'm kind of like, I still have to dust them all off, right? It's kind of like showing some love, dusting them off.
Yeah, right? Be like, hi, like you have this beautiful emotional connection with the place, because you can be there and you can smell the atmosphere and you can imagine and visualize yourself in it. And a lot of bartenders here in South Africa, I think they are really, really rotting inside, because they feel empty and they just want to go out there and they want to do their best and they want to be back in the space. But I also constantly want to warn them that it's not going to be the same way. So just it's something that they need to take into consideration. So yes, definitely we want to go back. We want to have this personal connection with our customers. We do need to follow the guidelines. And we do need to also, again, go back to that innovative trail of thought of how we're going to treat our customers going forward. Because, I can imagine going into a bar and the bartender is super excited, or, well, let's turn that around. Let's say the customer is super excited to see the bartender, and the bartender is just in a bit of a weird environment or in a weird space where they're like, it's quite overwhelming to go back to this routine, to from one day to another, not having this routine for over 6 weeks, being like, I have to do stock take, I have to do this, I have to set up, I have to do this, I have to know all of my drinks, I have to perform. I think it could be quite overwhelming, but also at the same time, the people who really, really want to be in this industry, they will make it happen. And I also feel that there is going to be an extensional amount of bartenders that we used to know were amazing, who have, after this pandemic, decided to go in a different direction because they might feel that their value could be more useful in a different sector of the economy. This obviously it's sad because there's great potential that we see there, but it also opens up opportunity for new blood, for fresh meat, as we like to call it.
And this is it sounds better than fresh meat. I mean, it's nice when a lady says this, but like, just imagine me saying, "Hey, come on, there's fresh meat." Oh. Well,
I'm always straightforward and to the point, and then if anyone's got any problems, they can chat to me afterwards.
As you just
fresh meat, definitely.
As you just described it, it's like now it's kind of, I can imagine that's kind of like now when things open up, and probably going to be kind of some rules and regulation and limited space or people. And you have this kind of, you are welcoming, but kind of distancing as well.
Yeah.
It's kind of I mean, I would say usually
I want you, I don't want you. I want you, I don't want you. I want you.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. So it's kind of what kind of signal are you sending? It's one thing. And usually it was always I would say a good bartender was always something the director and the actor at the same time. And now you probably got to be more directing than actually acting.
Of course, yes.
Kind of and fulfilling this kind of I regulate how people sit, or kind of don't get too close. So
exactly.
Kind of good thing. So yeah.
It will bring people back into understanding what hospitality is. I think people will go back into rethinking the way that they are hospitable in their space, how they're welcoming, how they do efficient service, how they create trust with their clientele, how they communicate, and also at the same time, I think more importantly, service staff now have to understand the value that they bring and that they have to treat their bar where they're working in as their own business. Because so many people, in this case, because it's going to be tight competition for people to go back and, choose whatever bar they want to go to, people are going to go back to the bar where they get the best experience. So for you as a service staff, being able to understand, okay, this is my business. I have these amounts of people that I'm taking care of, and these people come back because of me and because of the service that I offer to them, and they're going to tell 5 of their friends, and those people will tell 5. That it's going to circle all the way back, and it kind of brings everyone, I think it brings everyone back to the initial reason why they chose to be in that particular position. If it's a chef, if it's a waiter, if it's a bartender, we have a bit of a wake-up call. We're like, fuck, I love making cocktails, but I love making people smile at the same time.
I mean, what you just say, it feels a bit like, I had that in the probably mid-90s. I had a bike accident. I was just from one moment to another, I lost a tooth and broke my elbow and fractured my shoulder. So it was kind of from 120% doing what you want, and I feel to really insured losing money. Boom. It was just from here to there. And I felt in these kind of 4 weeks, it was no, I really want to do this.
Yeah.
I don't want to change track. I don't want to go do something else, another career path, go to university or whatever. It just was for me no, I'm a bartender. I do this. No matter what, I'm going to do this. So that was definitely something similar to this kind of are you really going on this way? That's one thing. And as he pointed out, that people might mature in a way, how they see that's not just fun and entertaining. That's a business side to it as well. It's people who are employed usually are more now I'm doing my job, right? Kind of and have a good time, and I'm doing my job for my boss, obviously, but it's never really what does it entail to have this kind of business running? It's more no, I'm doing my job. That's here. And I guess now they're looking there are different, costs and other aspects, looking at it. Or they might come up with so far I was just content and fulfilling my drinks in in this menu. And now I might think kind of communicating seriously, these kind of parts of drinks, they are not being ordered. So why don't we change this? Something like that. So kind of more interacting on a more mature way.
Of course, the people have the opportunity to get back in touch with themselves, having this time to just indulge in what they're doing, and really, really going back to the roots. I mean, obviously, economically, it's a disaster, especially here in South Africa, because booze is one of the social lubricant that drives our economy. But it really does give that opportunity for this sector to have a chance to breathe and a chance to just go back and be like, why am I here? What am I trying to achieve with this? And where do I want to go? What do I want to share with my consumers? And it's an important time to have in your career, which most cases we don't have, because we like one day to another. I go to work at 3, go home at 3, and
which is exhausting.
Exactly.
You don't have this kind of space for looking what really is worse or what it could be. But as you say, what I feel it's just kind of positive, and I wouldn't worry about South Africa, because what I feel like in South Africa, there's so much innovative and positivity. As next to all these kind of disastrous things, you see corruption, and all this other stuff, and you feel obviously when you're coming from Europe, or specifically Germany, everything got a gate, and behind one gate is another gate, and and then you have the barbed wire, and dogs here are hey, a dog here is because you got a pet, right? A dog there is because you guard something, right? So it's a totally different approach, in any aspect, right? And so I guess it's it is obviously a country with a very specific history, right? But what I felt the times I've been to South Africa was always that there is such a strong and really getting more and more defined personality, where you can say this is some things just talking about fashion, right? All the rest of the world has this kind of where you go oh no, this is Zara, this is H&M, this is whatever. Almost everyone looks the same, right? And going to South Africa is I couldn't wear this. It's so beautiful, right? And it's just that's with everything, and it's just this kind of strong identity where you go oh shit, that is beautiful, right? And then it's not just fashion, that is how they do music, how they embrace this kind of I want to express myself, right?
Yeah.
Other people do have this kind of luxury that they go yeah, I know, that is very expressive. I did my yoga still, whatever, right? And here the people just go without yoga or without having this kind of secure place, but they just come up with this is me.
Yeah.
This is so beautifully loud. So I feel you don't have to worry. That everyone gonna come up with something where they not just embrace, but kind of really enhance everything. Because I feel you have this energy, right?
Yeah, and I mean, you really hit the nail on the top right there, because that's exactly what we do. And thank you very much for saying that, because that just reassures it reassures me that we have this potential, and just reminds me again that we are survivors. We are the Rainbow Nation. We always come together, and we make we have this saying. It's how everyone says it's a vibe. We in South Africa say we have gees. Gees is the Afrikaans word for vibe. We have gees, and we do have a lot of gees. I mean, we always stick together, no matter through thick and thin. We will definitely come out of this even stronger than before. But yeah, I'm super excited for what's gonna come. I have no idea how we're going to how this industry is going to be affected. But what I do know is that we, as South Africans, we're survivors, and we will not let our ship sink under any circumstances. We are super proud of what we have and what we've built and where we come from, and we want to engage with the rest of the world. And we also want the rest of the world to be able to know and understand our culture, just like what you do right now. I think that you can, if you close your eyes and right now, you can visualize yourself being in a South African bar with
I can smell
all
it.
of the gees.
I can smell it, and it's the saying is, this kind of like, you know, as I said, like, you know, just beginning with this kind of like, you know, obviously there is a very like, you know, geographically you're really like distance, like, you know, from many other places. And South Africa is kind of like, you know, this in-between thing, right?
Yeah.
And it is so worthwhile to go in there, like, you know, and really just like have this kind of warmth and like, you know, really, it is a beautiful place. It is just like, and it is, as I said, it's got a vibrancy.
Yeah.
And
well, we can't wait to have you back here in any case. So get your ass over here as soon as you can.
I'm trying to get the quarantine lifted, just for that, just going. I mean, for me, it's just like, you know, as you just said, that it's like, you know, this. I mean, South Africa, like, people have never been there. I can only assure you, you got to go there. That's like, you know, that's one thing. And like, you know, I told Charles, like, you know, one moment where I kind of, you know, had this kind of where I said, this is like, you know, South Africa in a nutshell for me. There was one situation. We went like, you know, for like, you know, on an afternoon, like, you know, it was like somewhere outside Joburg, and it was just like, we were going in like, you know, little carts, like, you know, just like, you know, around the track, and it was a dirt track, right? And the first thing was just like, you know, getting this dirt track so it was not like that dusty anymore. They just splashed it with water. Obviously, the effect was like, you know, what was before was, you know, dust, was now really like the slimiest, like, you know, wet, like, you know, kind of dirtiest, red. Yeah, kind of like, you know, it was just like, it was just like, but it was beautiful because now you could drift like fucking crazy without getting too much dust. But then you had like everything covered in like, you know, just dirt. But that was one thing. And whenever like, you know, one of the carts broke down, 3 guys, we were just sitting around the track. We're standing up, and they had like, you know, this massive toolbox. And in this toolbox, there was probably like, you know, only 1 wrench and like, you know, 1 hammer. That was it. Maybe a screwdriver, right? So 3 guys and only 2 tools, right? But 1 massive toolbox, right? So they're carrying this massive toolbox, and everyone goes like watching this cart go like, you know,
what's this guy doing?
And then they just banged it up, and it was running again. So that was, for me, that was always like, you know, with nothing. They made it happen. And I'm sure to this day they had no clue what they were doing, but they were doing it together. And in the end, it was running.
Boom.
That was so amazing. That was so amazing. It was just like, that was perfect. So now you're gonna stay with me, give me a break, because Benny is coming and I'm gonna show you his dog, right?
Okay, awesome. This is Mr. Sox.
Hi, Mr. Sox.
Mr. Sox with his little socks.
And
he's a very naughty little shit. He speaks very regularly, and I think he might be addicted to catnip. But but he is an absolute rock star. He is. I treat him like a dog, and he acts like a dog. You know. I mean, I would love to have dogs, but I just don't have the right lifestyle to have a dog in our house.
It's a male. It's a male or female?
Yeah,
male.
This is a male. He's a very full-grown, very heavy, very naughty, very persistent kind of male.
It almost looks like the size of a lion.
Yeah, there's Gross. He's massive. Check this out. Große Katze.
Oh yeah.
Ein großer Kater.
Absolutely.
No, he's beautiful, and he's very cheerful, and he's very chatty as well. Like before we actually started, when we were talking about the French, he was sitting on my lap the entire time, and that's where you heard the meow, meow, meow. He was like, "Bitch, I want to get on your lap." And I was like, "Okay, cat, let's go. Let's enjoy it here." And he's a great companion as well. You know, he's like I said, he acts like he's a dog. Whenever I go home, or like when I get home from work, he is on top of the roof meowing, or he's sitting in front of the door looking at me like, where have you been? Why have you left the house? I want to play. Let's do this. And I think he's thoroughly enjoying the company at home at the moment. And I kind of feel bad for him, because when we go back into our normal routine, our animals are going to feel very heartbroken because they don't have this human connection anymore.
Yeah, they feel like, hey, I mean, I actually figured you figured it out, and now you're just going back to your old, routine. It's just like, it sucks.
I mean, right now he's sitting here like grabbing onto my leg for dear life, and I think he's just enjoying the fact that we are at home and we get to spend a lot of time with them, and cat people and dog people might be slightly different, but I treat my cats like they are live animals. I play with them. I try to train them as much as I can. I speak to them as well a lot. And even though it might sound a little bit crazy, but they're very, very interactive, and they're very emotional, and they show exactly what they feel. And they're super, super great companions. I get woken up every single morning with Sox standing on my chest, looking at my face and being meow. And I'm like,
time to get up.
Okay. Yeah, time to get up. He's like, feed me. I'm like, okay, we get it. And he at least spends like 10 minutes sitting on my chest, and we have our little meditation session where he purrs and I enjoy it. And, I wake up. Yeah, everyone purrs together, and then eventually everyone gets up and starts with their day. And it's been an amazing experience just to have with your pet as well. During lockdown or during your quarantine, it's again about appreciating those small things. For me, my cats are like my children, just like many people with their pets, their dogs, like yourselves. They are your children. They are your part of you. I can't imagine spending this time without them.
I mean, a friend of mine, he posted a picture cuddling one of his bottles out of his collection. He got an amazing collection of old variation of spirits, and he's cuddling a bottle of these very rare bottles. And I feel it's not the same.
Yeah.
He's probably missing out on something.
Yeah. No, they are incredible companions, and people are dog people are cat people are snake people are reptile people. At the end of the day, it's the emotional connection you build with them, and dala what you must.
I mean, I always feel there's always this kind of, but I mean, it's with this interaction between humans. It's always some people, they have only an ability that's not judgmental, when I say this. But I know it kind of sounds harsh, but they have this kind of limited ability only to kind of give or receive that much, right?
Yeah.
And that is something where you feel all right, you might perceive it as that's not really complete, or is there something missing? But for them, it seems that's perfect, right? I mean, for example, a friend of mine who's always I would feel he's kind of happy coming along and just sitting there, not really interaction, talking, he's just he's just around. And then he gets up and he's fulfilled and satisfied. And I would personally I'm obviously a person who kind of likes to kind of have a discussion or talk, right? And then I'll sometimes feel that was it, kind of but for him it's yeah, that was it, and it's cool, right? And I always feel a disconnect, right? But for him it was all right. So I guess that's the same with how you kind of what kind of relation you have with your partner or with your pet, or it's always depending on how you feel and how much you're able to give or receive, right? And you do it on different levels, and that's totally okay.
the amount of times when I choose to rather be home and spend time with my cats than to be out with people is probably 50% of the time. Not that I'm saying I don't enjoy people. Sometimes I just enjoy being able to give back the emotional support that these animals give us. I love people, but they can be very overwhelming at times. And because of what I do, people always ask me about things. They always ask about support. They always ask questions. And sometimes I just want to be like, just Liza, be quiet. I just want to be in my own space. And these companions, they really do help us. And I really don't want to sound like a crazy cat woman, but that's the truth at the end of the day,
Yeah, you are a crazy cat woman. We got it.
Yeah, a little bit. Meow.
So, but I mean, as you said, sometimes, obviously, I mean, that's probably is the biggest effect. I feel right now, it's this is not wholly voluntarily, this whole situation, right?
Yeah.
And I guess that's kind of now makes it so kind of strange or weird, because as you say, sometimes we do have the privilege to choose, do I want to go out or do I want to stay home? And right now we don't have this choice. It's no, you gotta stay home, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, I guess that's basically a nice takeaway from this whole thing, right?
Exactly.
But
we have to make the best out of the situation, no matter what. If it includes you progressing you as an individual, or if it's you progressing within your career, or as your business, or even completely taking yourself out and choosing to be in a completely different dynamic. At the end of the day, whatever you're doing right now that enables you to progress, it's okay, because no one can judge you based on your actions, because you're doing what you want to do and what your body says is right for you. So if you want to play, catch and like mouse and cat with your cats, that's cool. If you want to play poker for 2 days straight, that's fine. If you want to learn more about bartending or your business, that's also okay. Just take something valuable out of this experience and remember just to remember that there are going to be better times coming ahead. You can be progressive about this, or you can be lazy and do nothing about this. That's your choice. No one is forcing you into anything, but it's also okay to do whatever you want to. So if you feel like you don't want to progress in your career, or if you just want to play poker or whatever you want to do, play online games, it's also fine. It's your decision at the end of the day. Yeah, I mean, I think that's kind of the conclusion, If you have some Jägermeister during your progress, that's, I think, even better, but not everyone has got that luxury. So I'm gonna end this off in saying, Prost, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Nils.
I got to thank you, for your time, and obviously, for your insights, for your very valuable lessons, and I really enjoyed it. And I hope to see you very soon in the very vibrant Rainbow Nation. You embodied so much. Thank you very much.
100%. And if I can see you at the next Stammtisch, 100% I will be there. I will be the crazy German-ish girl running around and screaming, Aue! Prost, meine Herren, Prost. Und stay cool, stay ice cool, and be safe. We see you guys on another side soon.
Thank you very much.
Prost! Ciao.
Lovely.